Everybody out there in YouTube land, Facebook land, and everywhere else. Now I'm going to come back with my Black History Month movie review of the 1992 film entitled Mo Money, starring Damon Wayans and his brother Marlon Wayans, and a couple of other character actors, and of course the beautiful Stacy Dash. Upon rewatching this film, you know, like anything in life, when this film was released in theaters, I believe me and my cousin were with my parents, and we were in Florida. I think we were in Miami, if I remember right. And if I remember right, we were in a Holiday Inn, and we were actually watching the second part of Stephen King's It, the miniseries. I believe it was the second year it or maybe it was the third year it had aired. But we had saw the second part of It, and that night they had dropped us off at the movie theater. No, all four of us went to go see Mo Money. Mo Money was kind of a creation of a skit that was on Damon Wayans' oldest brother, Keenen Ivory Wayans, who we all remember had the television show In Living Color. And Mo Money was kind of a skit on that show. I have not seen that Mo Money skit in years. The last couple skits that I saw in Living Color were like the Fire Marshal Bills and Bonita Betrayal and a couple of other ones, but I haven't seen the Mo Money skit like in a really long time. So anybody can write in the comments section and refresh me on it. But all I remember is that it was Damon Wayans and his brother Keenen Ivory Wayans, and I think they were like hustlers or whatever, and they would sell things and go Mo Money, Mo Money. But either way, this film was derived from that skit that was on that television show. This movie, you know, like I said, has Damon Wayans and his younger brother Marlon. Before I even get into it, I always thought it would have been more interesting if Keenen would have been in this film. But I do understand that the Wayans is a family that kind of looks out for one another, so they're always trying to showcase new talent in the family. And I didn't realize, I always thought Sean Wayans was older than Marlon, but Marlon, apparently Sean Wayans is the youngest, and Marlon Wayans is older than him, which is kind of surprising. But, you know, Damon Wayans had got this film after he did The Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis in 1991, so I assume, and from what I read online, you know, again, I remember seeing the previews for The Last Boy Scout when I was like 9, and when I saw that scene of the dude putting the knife to Bruce Willis's eye, and Bruce Willis running with the two guns, and then Damon Wayans threw the football, and then it exploded and said The Last Boy Scout. I mean, I wanted to see that movie so bad. And I remember seeing that movie on video, and I'm not going to get into a whole thing of Last Boy Scout. I'll talk about that later. But from what I read online, and I wasn't paying attention to box office numbers at that time, but apparently Last Boy Scout had got crushed at the box office by Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which I do remember that movie when it came out. I remember both of them when they came out. But apparently Last Boy Scout was released around Christmas, which that's a really bad movie to release around that time because it's not the most happiest film. But it only did mediocre business, but apparently, you know, Damon was hot from In Living Color. He did this big movie with Joe Silver, Tony Scott, Bruce Willis. So that must have given him clout to be able to make Mo Money. Mo Money, I remember really loving it when I saw it when I was like 10, because I remember that movie came out the summer before I went into the 5th grade. So I was 10 years old. Remember thinking it was great. Upon rewatching it now, it is not the strongest film in the world. It's actually a pretty weak movie. The plot is pretty thin. It's Johnny and Seymour, which is Damon Wayans and Marlon Wayans, and basically they're kind of like hoods. And the movie kind of starts out with Damon Wayans doing his famous Antoine Jackson, who was a character from In Living Color. He's the homeless dude who kind of goes, "Why don't you give me the steak and the guy?" And he's kind of drinking and all this kind. That character is so funny, and even to this day, when I see Damon, when I rewatch my old VHS tapes of In Living Color, and I see Damon Wayans playing Antoine Jackson. That character, it was him and Handyman and a couple other ones, Men on Film. I think Antoine Jackson and Handyman were the funniest ones, and maybe Homie the Clown were the funniest ones that Damon Wayans did at that time. But when he comes out and he does that, and he's drooling, it's so hysterical. But they're hustlers, and they're really lazy guys. They're deadbeats. They don't have any ambition. They just kind of want everything to come to them for free in life. And Damon Wayans basically finds this beautiful woman who's played by I forgot how gorgeous Stacy Dash was. I mean, oh my God, she's got that beautiful brown skin, those hazel eyes, and that lovely early 90s poofy curly hair. And of course, again, like what I said in the Juice review, is that this was in the era where, we kind of had the whole 1992 Malcolm X had just came out, Kwanzaa's in Living Color. So you kind of got the the kind of purples and red sports coats, purple shirts, the greens, the oranges, all that kind of stuff that we wore back then. This movie really incorporates a lot of that culture, just like the movie Juice does. There's not so many box haircuts, but there's a couple here and there. There's actually even a cameo from Bernie Mac. He's like a bouncer at a door with a flashlight on his head, so that's funny. We all remember that. But either way, Damon Wayans' character gets infatuated by Stacy Dash, and basically he stalks her, and because of her, he wants to get a job and stop hustling. He kind of hustles his way in and gets hired in this credit card company, and he comes upon a loss prevention's head of security in the company, who's like actually committing like all kinds of like fraud and murder in this company. And then it kind of goes from like sketch comedy from In Living Color and weaves into action territory. Which the interesting thing about the movie that is, I've worked in retail before, and I tell you, the way that this head of security guy is in this company is, aside from the murder aspect of the plot, as far as like setting up your employees and stuff, that's exactly how loss prevention security people work in stores. They think everybody is stealing. They think everybody is a criminal. When I worked for Sears, I had a guy who tried to set up me and a fellow coworker, but he ended up getting fired. So but this guy thought that he was FBI agent, Axel Foley, security guard, battalion, special forces, whatever. But yeah. That's kind of how the plot goes. It introduces the head of security guy murdering one of his employees. Then you meet the two hustlers. The hustler wants to get on with the beautiful girl. He hustles his way into this company. The murderous head of security guy sets him up and gets him to work for this business, where basically what they're doing is all these credit cards are pre-approved, and with the credit cards being pre-approved, basically, if I understand it right, I don't know if in the story they're killing the people who are pre-approved, but either way, these cards are coming out pre-approved, and they either kill the people or the people return the cards. So what they do is they buy like all this merchandise with the cards, and they have like all this millions of dollars worth of merchandise, but then they cancel the card. So basically, essentially, I guess most of the people are dead who have the cards canceled. So basically, that's like stealing. You're racking up all this money, but you don't have to pay it back. So they have all this millions of dollars worth of merchandise, and then they sell it for money. And Damon Wayans gets involved in this crazy scheme, and it turns into an action picture. More money upon rewatching it. It's not a good movie. It's based solely on the charm of Damon Wayans, the beautiful Stacy Dash, an actor named John Dale, who was actually a supporting character on the television series Miami Vice in the 80s. He's done a whole bunch of other stuff. He's been in A Time to Kill, a bunch of other movies. I cannot remember the actor who plays the... I don't know whether he's the lieutenant. I think he's the lieutenant, but he played the lieutenant in The Last Boy Scout, too. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in, like, Revenge with Kevin Costner. Really good Italian actor. Great actor. And there's a whole lot of good supporting players. And what really was good in this movie is the comedy. I think, and the action aspect, that's the part of the story that I'm not the most crazy about. But I do think John Dill, he plays a pretty menacing villain. And the action sequences are shot very competently. I think Mo Money is directed by the guy who directed Rambo 3. I think I might be wrong. Somebody can correct me if they see it, but I think it's the same director. But the action sequences are well done. I just think that this movie, had they worked out the script a little bit better, tightened it up, I think, in my opinion, it should have been Keenan Ivory Wayans and Damon Wayans instead of Damon Wayans and Marlon Wayans. That's just my opinion. But I think the comedy bits in this movie really work. Like I have not seen this movie in years, and I rewatched it again. And the scene where Damon Wayans kind of does his handyman routine, he's going, you all remember he'd do the thing with his hand, and he'd be shaking in the deli mart when he's tearing apart the store to get a free sandwich. It had me, and I never forget when I saw it when I was 10. I laughed hysterically in the theater until I was in pain. And I have not seen this movie in so long that I was laughing like that again when I saw that sequence. It's a funny movie. I just think the story is very shallow, and I think it should have been a straight comedy with Damon and Keenan, and I think it would have worked a little bit better if they would have stuck on the comedy route instead of zigzagging kind of into this brutal kind of credit card, extortion, fraud, whatever you want to call it, plot to the movie. I think that the action aspect of the story is the weakest. Although the action is shot well, it's just the weakest part of the story. Again, but the highlights of the movie are the comedy, and of course, it's nostalgic for all those outfits with the colors and the greens and the purples and the oranges and the reds, and it's just so nostalgic looking at all those outfits. And of course, kind of that 80s and early 90s aesthetic of telling the story. Because like all those films that came out then, there's a musical montage. And I think that, if I remember right, I think there's 3 of them in it. I think there's 3 musical montages in it. But, you got a lot. You got the typical soundtrack, a lot of R&B, a lot of rap. I think Big Daddy Kane is on the soundtrack. Mint Condition is on there. Really good musical montages in there, and that's kind of the fun part that I have about watching kind of these black films from the 80s and 90s. Is just the music, the comedy and the music meld so well together, and this continues that tradition like they had in Juice too. I think Juice had a montage too, if I remember right. But again, that's really all I have to say for Mo Money. Upon rewatching it, it's a very weak movie. It's not a very strong picture. Apparently, from what I understand, it did okay at the box office. But I don't think this was like a gigantic, big budget action picture or anything. It's probably a medium budget movie. But it's a weak movie. The plot is really thin, but I think that Damon Wayans is really charming in the role. I think all the supporting players are good, and the music is good. It's just the script is not very good, and it's not a very strong picture. But the comedy and the music and nostalgia kind of make it hold up. So you guys can take from that what you want. If you want to go back and check out Mo Money on your own. But that is my review of Mo Money. The next Black History Month movie review I've decided is going to be, and this is going to be a fun one to talk about, New Jack City, starring Wesley Snipes and Ice-T. This is gonna be such a fun one to talk about, and I think everybody out there, we all have memories of New Jack City. We can remember where we were when we first saw it, but I'm gonna get on that later. I'm gonna be talking about New Jack City, starring Wesley Snipes. See you guys soon. Leave some comments, subscribe to my channel, and like I said, the set's coming, the intro's coming, more to come. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Have a nice night.